All right, let's talk about all K through 12 education in Nebraska, just to give some context of the sizes we're dealing with here. And you'll see here in each of these charts, we've got the blue is public, the purple is non-public or private, and then the red is homeschool. So you'll see the vast majority of our students in the state of Nebraska attend public schools. Only about 10% attend private or non-public, and 2% are homeschooled, although that number has been increasing significantly the past few years. When you look at the number of schools, we're talking about 1,200 schools in the state. And again, the portion that is schools that are private or non-public is larger than the amount of students there. So again, the implications of that as far as student-teacher ratios or access to resources, it has some impact there. It's another good time to point out that some of the resources are shared. So for example, in Nebraska, public schools are required to provide services for students with disabilities. Private schools are not necessarily required to do that out of their own school. And so a lot of times, students with disabilities who might attend a private school will get the services they need from a public school or a public school employee. So there's some sharing that goes on too. And you can see there when we're talking about teachers, there are 26,000 folks who work in our schools who are our teachers, and then 39,000 staff members. So again, sometimes I think what gets lost in this conversation about schools is these are our friends and neighbors. This is part of our community. It really is a community school in that it's not just about the students or the families, but also the teachers and the folks who live there. So let's talk specifically about public schools in Nebraska. You'll see there some quick stats about the number of students, the number of teachers. I also think it's helpful to point out some of these program participation, because sometimes we don't think about that when we're talking about school funding or things like that. You know, we have 7% of our students that are English learners. We have 46% of our public school students that are on free and reduced lunch. 13% are in a gifted program, and 16% are in special education. So those are just all considerations we need to look at when we talk about school funding. There are 244 districts statewide. The largest, not surprisingly, is Omaha Public Schools with just about 52,000 students. The smallest is McPherson Schools with 64 students. This blows my mind. Our largest district is 52,000 and our smallest district is 64 students. And I love to highlight this point because when we're making policy or trying to figure out funding options or things like that for our schools, we have this huge range we're working with. So that's something that's always helpful to keep in mind. Not every district looks the same. In fact, they can look very different. I mentioned this point earlier, but special education services in non-public schools are often provided by those public schools, whether that's through a staff member actually going to a program. And then just a point of context, we discussed earlier how roughly 80% of a school's budget is spent on staff and their salaries and benefits. We're not talking about extraordinary amounts of money here. So that's $58,000 as an average teacher's salary. And that really is someone who's probably been there for 10 years or so. So the lower range, a lot of our starting teachers are making in the mid 30s, maybe up to the 40s. And the highest level, and this might be someone with a master's who's taught for a long time, specialized, is maybe 70,000. That's kind of the range. So, we're talking about solid middle-class jobs here. I like to highlight this slide just to show all the different people who work in our schools. And I think of this as my own experience walking in with my sons. His kindergarten room is at the very end, so I get to see all of these things. When we walk in and we say hello to the gym teacher, who's the person doing crosswalk duty that day. And then the principal is out in the lobby saying hello to everyone. And on our way down, we pass the school counselor's office and then the library with all the media folks. And then only then do we get to his classroom. And that's not even seeing the folks who are doing custodial work, maybe technology folks, all sorts of things. So when we talk about our schools, we also need to think about our teachers and our staff and all these people that are providing support to our students.